Greetings! Your background is boring as shit.
I'm sorry?
You like movies, right? Production, cinematography, color grading.
Well, yeah, but this is a DC20 video.
Man, shut the up and try again. You're welcome. You've probably heard by now that DC20 is the perfect love child between Pathfinder and Dungeons & Dragons. Well, combat resources are a big part of the reason DC20 gets compared to Pathfinder. For example, DC20 also uses an action point system. Each player gets a maximum of 4 action points that they can spend on actions, reactions, and features such as maneuvers, cantrip enhancements, and more. Let's go to the table for an example.
And all right, it's the start of the combat encounter and you're first in initiative. What do you do?
Yeah, cool. So I'm gonna spend 1 action point to move up to the creature, and then I'm going to spend 1 action point to attack it. And you know what? I would like 2 instances of advantage on that, so I'm gonna spend my remaining action points doing that.
Good stuff. Go ahead and roll to attack.
Cool. That's a 16.
Man, heavy hit.
Okay, that will be 2 points of slashing damage your way.
Awesome. I believe that's everything you can do on your turn, so go ahead and reset your action points. All right, the creature is obviously upset and is going to attempt a slam attack on you.
Ooh, nope. I would like to spend an action point to raise my shield.
That will mean you start your next turn with 1 less action point. Are you sure?
Absolutely.
All right. And the creature rolled an 8. I'm gonna guess that doesn't hit.
You'd be correct. The player always regains their action points at the end of their turn, so be sure to spend all of your action points before your turn is over. Another thing to keep in mind is that action points cannot be spent outside of combat. Instead, the player simply states which action they would like to take and does so. The next resource that you'll want to know about is mana points. These are exclusive to spellcasting players and can be spent on spells, spell enhancements, class features, and ancestry traits. For all of the D&D players out there, this replaces the concept of spell slots. In DC20, a cantrip will use action points, while a spell will use both action points and mana points. However, once you spend that mana point, you don't get it back until you finish a long rest. And unlike action points, you can spend them outside of combat. Just make sure to reduce the mana point cost of the spell by 1. And if you're a martial player, you get a resource in the form of stamina points. These can be spent on techniques, class features, and can even take the place of action points if you're performing a martial maneuver. You heard that right. They can replace action points. Once you've spent your stamina point, there are a number of ways to regain it. For example, the fighter regains stamina by performing maneuvers, while the barbarian regains them by scoring or taking a heavy, brutal, or critical hit. Check out our last video to learn about how damage works in DC20. Another way that you can regain one of your stamina points is by spending 2 action points. Think of this as letting your character catch their breath in combat. Or if you're playing a hybrid class like the Spellblade, you can spend 1 or more mana points to regain stamina points equal to the amount of mana points spent. This can only be done once per turn.
Like we've established early on in this series, classes are not bound to certain attributes. Now that being said, the attributes that you choose to prioritize will have certain benefits. And if you're the kind of player who loves to dump everything they have into charisma, well, you get to benefit from our last resource in today's video, grit points. Each player gets a number of grit points equal to 2 plus their charisma. And if your charisma is negative, then you reduce your grit total by that amount. So when do you spend grit points? Well, for starters, whenever you're hit by an attack, you can choose to spend 1 grit point to reduce your damage by 1. If you do this, it must be before that creature rolls any dice as part of that save. Also, they can only benefit from 1 grit point per save.
If you found this guide to combat resources helpful, check out our video on how damage works in DC20. Thanks for watching.